What's Flannery O'Connor's process of writing transformative novels? Well, today we are going to hear O'Connor speak at length on this. And I read comments all the time that tell me authors don't set out to write transformative novels. This is all a lie, Ian. But when you look at authors' drafts, letters, their revision process, how they distort their work, and you just listen to what they say, you will see that they do set out to write transformative novels, and they do, through their revision, go beyond just trying to tell a good story, because you can learn how to tell a good story and write an entertaining novel from books on craft. You can study other authors. That is something you can learn. But to write a legendary novel, a transformative novel, that requires you to go above and beyond into uncharted lands where O'Connor lived, basically. And if you guys do not know already, Right Conscious is the headquarters of everything related to Flannery O'Connor here on YouTube. In the playlist down below, you will find videos on O'Connor's books, her life, and her writing philosophy. Plus, I also cover other Southern Gothic authors like Cormac McCarthy. I have over 200 videos on him. William Faulkner, I have over 30 videos on him. And many other Southern writers like Toni Morrison and other OGs. And so, hey, enough for me, everyone. Let us now hear from O'Connor. When I write a novel in which the central action is a baptism, I'm very well aware that for a majority of my readers, baptism is a meaningless rite. And so in my novel, I have to see that this baptism carries enough awe and mystery to jar the reader into some kind of emotional recognition of its significance. To this end, I have to bend the whole novel. Once again, to this end, I have to bend the whole novel. Its language, its structure, its action. I have to make the reader feel in his bones, if nowhere else, that something is going on here that counts. Distortion in this case is an instrument. Exaggeration has a purpose, and the whole structure of the story or the novel has been made what it is because of belief. This is not the kind of distortion that destroys. It is the kind that reveals or should reveal. And so the people who say you can't set out to write something transformative are projecting their own weaknesses as authors, I'm sorry to say, because there are generational talents like McCarthy, Faulkner, O'Connor, and others. And when they step to the page, they are not weak. They could write about anything well. When you hit the level of writing that they were at, the hardest thing to choose is what to write about, what you are going to help people transform with, what 12 to 20 concepts that you can fit into your novels are the ones that you want to leave behind as your legacy. That's the hard choice. Many writers are like 5'3" people, or I should say people who are 5'3", trying to tell 7-footers that it's impossible to dunk. And so in regards to this quote, she's talking about her second novel, The Violent Bear It Away. And the title actually comes from Matthew 11:12, which reads, "From the days of John the Baptist until now, the kingdom of heaven suffereth violence, and the violent bear it away." And so in this novel, the entire novel is set up for this climactic moment, and I really want to spoil, but I won't spoil, where someone is baptized. But the baptism isn't, obviously, because it's Flannery O'Connor, a normal baptism. And so O'Connor's Catholic theology treats baptism as this sacred and transformative rite. And I was baptized, and I felt a little bit of something, but it really wasn't this insane ritualistic experience. I'm sure a lot of you guys, especially if it happened to you while you were young, probably feel the same. And because of technology and other forms of initiation like psychedelic drugs and having sex out of wedlock, and many other forms of initiation, the weight of religion and baptism has become almost silly to us. It's become a simulacra event that we just have to do. So what do you do, though, if you are a Catholic and you believe in the power of baptism, if you've seen it from a different angle, if you understand it at a deeper level? Because many of us are this way. Unfortunately, many people in the world are not growth oriented. They are just going through the world on autopilot, and they don't really look deeper into anything, even the things that they care about. And transformation, growth are important for everyone, no matter what system you are doing it in. And so if O'Connor just wrote a novel about a baptism, it wouldn't be transformative. It wouldn't really tell you anything. So instead, she does a weaponized Catholic realism by adding, much like Faulkner and McCarthy, freaks and prophets, weird, like rationalistic people that are using buzzwords, almost like the New Agers or like the atheists of today. There's brutality, super conscious children, like all of the kind of tropes that you need to build up to this one moment. And so I would like to ask you, why do you think O'Connor wrote this novel? Because I just wanted to write art for art's sake. I just feel the need to write. Or do you think or did she write for Christians? Was she like, damn, all those ladies at church, they're going to love this. They're going to be like, damn, Flannery, you killed it. No, they're going to think she's a weirdo. So who is she writing it for? She writing it for herself? Is she just a weirdo? No, she's writing it for an audience who is deaf to the world of mystery and blind to grace and views baptism as this invisible, dumb entity. That's who she's writing it for, everyone, to create a shift in their perception. That's what happened to me when I read this. I take the power of baptism very seriously, even though I am not a Christian. I take initiation very seriously, and this book was a contributing factor to that, especially in the realm of fiction. In terms of initiation, this book hits the nail on the head almost as good as anything. And so if we return to the quote here, I am very well aware that for the majority of my readers, baptism is a meaningless rite. For the majority of your readers, your transformative element means nothing to them. And I love this line at the bottom. To this end, I have to bend the whole novel. You don't hear Flannery talking about the story here, or characterization, or plot, because you can always increase those things. You can always add a stronger character arc in whatever direction, or more plot, or more style. That's something an editor can help you with. But with O'Connor and her work, she sets her mind to achieving something like renewing our perception of baptism. And as I was saying earlier, she focuses on bringing in metaphors and uncanniness into the project that forces us, as she says, to make the reader feel it in his bones, if nowhere else, that something is going on here that counts. What does she mean by that counts? Something that is better and bigger than just telling a story. And real artistry happens in the metaphors, not in the story, not in the characterization, but in the metaphor and the odd angle and perceptions that the artist brings to the table. Her usage of the word distortion is beautiful because that's what it is. You're distorting something that should be sacred or normal to get people to renew and respect it, because respect means to look again. Respect this thing, because we all know about the world. Like, we all know about the power of baptism, and many of the transformative novels behind me, their main thesis and what they are trying to push, I know that in my heart. You know that you should sleep 8 hours a night and not eat X, Y, and Z and do this and that and act a certain way, but you still screw up, don't you? Yeah. And personal development, literature, or I should say personal development, sometimes falls flat for a lot of people. Reading Atomic Habits, watching your favorite personal development YouTuber may not get you all the way. And when it comes to more philosophical concepts, coming at it from a straightforward angle, like I'm going to read about Catholicism, first of all, sounds kind of boring. It doesn't seem very motivating, especially if you're not interested in that. And so having someone exaggerate it and distort it forces us to look at it. And what's great about literature is that if you read enough, you don't know what you're going to get. Like, for instance, you maybe have never dealt with addiction before, but if you read Infinite Jest, you're going to be dealing with addiction. Maybe you don't live in America and you don't contemplate the loss of the wild spaces of the West, but then you read Cormac McCarthy's Border Trilogy, this inverted Quixotean and Arthurian romance, and it infuses in you Gnosticism and all these other odd philosophies, which help you look at that whole situation again. Look at something that we read across a paragraph in history or watch in a Western movie and think we know about, but we actually don't. And at the end there, she says, this is the kind of distortion this is not the kind of distortion that destroys. It is the kind that reveals, or should reveal, because many young authors, many amateur authors, many people will comment and say, well, if I sit and try to write a transformative novel about baptism, it's just going to feel like I'm preaching. And that's because you aren't good enough yet to be able to hit this level, to be able to sneak in and distort and draw people into the novel, because we've all read that stuff before and it does feel like it destroys the purpose. And so I like these verbs. What you are doing with your novel is revealing something much greater than the classic trope that you hear about characterization. You have to reveal a lie they don't know about themselves. It's way beyond that. And if you can do that, then you are irreplaceable, because great stories, just telling a good story, like I said, anybody can do that. There's a formula for that. But AI will never be able to mimic the metaphors and the uncanniness that all of us have in our heart when we pursue something with effort, and something that is a big topic like baptism or addiction or whatever else. And so, boom, there you guys have it. And so, if you guys want to support me, of course, you can subscribe to the channel. I also run a book club over on my Substack. There are also literature and writing courses over there. My writing, some of the content's free, some of it's paid. Go check it out. The literary renaissance is happening over on substack.com, everybody. I would love to see each and every one of you over there. And I will see you guys very soon in the next video.